The Game Awards happen, let's talk about it. A few good reveals, a lot of bland trash, a solid amount of repeat information, good and bad musical performances, unfunny banter, some political posturing, and about a 40% ratio of whether a game that won an award in a category deserved to. Jeff Keeley started off the show by being hella mad at internet trolls and also the people at Activision. He condemned harassment with fresh, unmistakable anger in his eyes like it had just happened to him backstage. He went out there and laid the verbal smackdown like his girlfriend was Bobby Kotick's personal secretary. Nothing like starting off a joyful celebration of games with a voice-trembling rant that made sure to pause in case of applause breaks. Because the Game Awards can never just be about video games, Facebook periodically went in there to sprinkle in some global gaming citizen BS, a segment where they spotlight rando gamers who do enough irrelevant progressive cultural politicking to make Facebook look good for spotlighting them. I'm surprised they didn't pick Jussie Smollett. I heard the person who committed a hate crime against him was finally found guilty during the Game Awards. Could have been another big win for him that day. Instead, we had some drag queens, a Malaysian girl who, to her credit, actually seemed like a genuine person instead of an activist seizing an opportunity, and a black dude who makes a show where he gives lessons in blackness as if he's the spokesman and holds powwow podcast sessions with people who are terrified to go outside because of all the racism lurking around every corner. "I'm black and I'm scared" is a defining quote of this segment. There's just nowhere left to escape from this race-baiting fear-mongering anymore. I'm white and I'm scared. Back to the parts that were actually about games, though. A few game reveals did soak through the monotony and make a name for themselves. Have a Nice Death was a game revealed during the pre-show that looked like a nice 2D action game like Ender Lilies or Blasphemous. Another one was Nightingales, a multiplayer base-building survival game, because those are so popular nowadays, but it did look fun. Cuphead also finally revealed more of its coming DLC and the release date, which is like 6 months from now. Feels like they expanded the scope because people have been waiting for that shit for like 4 years. Some game reveals were bad, though, or repetitive. Like, do we really need to see more Horizon Forbidden West? Everyone knows it's good. Nobody is still on the fence about this. Tiny Tina's Wonderland also got way too much screen time and some dumb scripted banter between two of the actors playing in it. Who likes scripted banter? Everybody knows that shit is fake. It's a waste of time, quite literally. Nothing can explain your game better than the trailer you've prepared will, unless you're a DokeV or whatever that weird Korean game is called, and instead of showing something that'll make the last trailer you did make any damn sense, you put together a K-pop music video of them dancing instead. Really broadened my understanding of the game. I have much fewer questions now. I still can't believe Gearbox is making an entire $70 game that is literally a retread of a DLC they made for their second-to-last Borderlands game. It's the same Dungeons & Dragons shit they already pulled, and it's $70. It's funny watching Destiny 2 keep coming out with new expansions and sucking more money out of the people who already bought too far in to give up now. Like, the rationale is you already spent $250 fucking dollars just to keep up with the meta. If you fall behind now, what was it all for? The answer is not much, which is why I was done after I finished the base game. But you should quit now if you haven't. Take the hit, it'll save you in the long run. One of the running themes of reveals this Game Awards was that there were about 100 trailers that involved a spaceship flying over some kind of barren wasteland. It's its own genre at this point. Games where you explore a planet in a ship. They all look so bland and have the same polygonal art style that's getting on my nerves. One of the last trailers they showed was prefaced by Jeff Keeley rattling off some of the talent behind a bunch of major studios coming together to create a game called Arc Raiders, and after a pedigreed introduction like that, I inwardly laughed my ass off when I saw the trailer. The most generic people in spacesuits fighting giant robots I've ever seen. It just looked like Destiny again, but worse. 2022 has some really good games slated for it, but I think there's going to be a lot more bad games than usual too. But it's the Game Awards, after all, so what about the actual awards? 2021 was not a good year for games, as evidenced by half the Game of the Year nominations being games that would have barely cracked the top 5 list last year, while the rest shouldn't have been mentioned at all. The biggest crime of this ceremony, though, wasn't the actual Game of the Year winner. It was Deathloop winning Best Art Direction over Kena Bridge of Spirits and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Art direction. Deathloop has mediocre graphics. They are not the selling point of the game at all. Meanwhile, Kena, whose gorgeous art design is praised by everybody, and Ratchet & Clank, which is easily the most beautiful PlayStation game ever created, lose to Deathloop for art direction. Were all the judges blind? Was this some push for accessibility and game award giving? It doesn't make a damn bit of sense. Speaking of Kena, in a fit of vengeance after losing the last award, it decided to steal the award for Best Indie, which rightfully belonged to either Death's Door or Inscription based on the nominees, although they all should have fallen to Unsighted, but that shit didn't get nominated for a damn thing, and that might be the biggest travesty of all. The second major crime of the ceremony was something I honestly can't believe happened. The actress for Lady Dimitrescu won Best Performance. That is a fucking meme. That 9-foot bitch is in the game for an hour, and she beat Giancarlo Esposito and the two leads from Deathloop. The judges wanted a giant stiletto in their neck that badly. The actress herself even opened her speech by saying she didn't expect this at all. Like, yeah, for good reason. No offense, you did fine, but you're a footnote in the damn game. The only reason I'm glad Genshin Impact won Best Mobile Game is because MiHoYo is giving us free Primo Gems to celebrate, enough for a 10 pull over the course of 4 days, and they're stingier with their Primo Gems than a squirrel is with nuts. The third major crime of the ceremony was Metroid Dread winning Best Action Adventure Game over Ratchet & Clank and Resident Evil Village. I don't know how much copium you have to snort to think that Nintendo releasing a Metroid game in 2021 that feels like they finished it back in 2007 warrants even a nomination in any category of the Game Awards. I used to think nothing beyond the game just being boring after playing it for 5 or so hours, but seeing the humongously inflated reception from people who must not have played a Metroidvania in the past 5 years to know what the formula looks like when executed much better makes me wonder if I'm being gaslit by half the gaming community. And even if you love it, there's no shot that it's better than Ratchet and Clank or Resident Evil. No shot. I have friends who wanted it to win Game of the Year literally only because they're Nintendo fanboys, and they didn't even play the game. Like, confirmed, didn't play the game. But they wanted it to win because they'd take a bullet for Nintendo. If this is you, please do take a bullet. It doesn't have to be for Nintendo. It'll serve the same purpose as far as I'm concerned. The final Game of the Year winner ended up being It Takes Two, which is probably the third or fourth best case scenario. I've been able to play a decent amount of it lately, 3 or 4 hours deep, and can confirm that what I've played is definitely really good and unique. Would have still picked Ratchet and Clank or Resident Evil over it, though. Maybe even Deathloop. Psychonauts 2 is for bearded 30-year-olds who take LSD. I was a big platform mascot fanboy back in the PS1 and 2 era, but Psychonauts was always too ugly for me to want to play it. I don't have to keep hammering this point home, but I just looked at every Game of the Year nomination the Game Awards has ever done since 2014 and can say with near absolute certainty that Metroid Dread is the worst game they've ever nominated. Maybe Death Stranding, depending on your position, or PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Actually, definitely PUBG, because I remember that shit was still in early access at the time. The nomination was a total travesty. I don't know how I get on the panel for next year, but I'm going to send some damn emails. Well, that's going to do it for this highly controversial episode, probably. Hope you enjoyed it anyway. Like and subscribe and stuff. Twitch.tv/SunburnedAlbino for streams. @SunburnedAlbino on Twitter. Watch every video with my voice in it until I tell you not to, and I'll see you guys next time.